Hey guys, it's Annie Margarita Yang back with another video for you today. Today is Friday, January 26, 2024, and I'm thinking on Fridays maybe I could talk about things other than job search. So I'm thinking maybe 4 for you and then 1 freebie for me where I get to talk about anything I want because I think I would go crazy if I talked about job search 5 days a week. Okay. So today is a bit more personal because I'm trying to see if there's anyone else out there who has had similar experiences as I have had. And that is the question, can you hear the voice of God calling? Because I've researched a lot on this topic where people can hear God is speaking to them. And there's a lot of sermons given by pastors about this subject as well, but then I never really hear stories from actual people who have had an experience similar to mine. And when I speak to people about this, they tell me, oh, Annie, you're just very spiritually advanced. Because I have gone to spiritual teachers as well, and a lot of them haven't been able to teach me things that I didn't already know. So it was things that I have intuitively known without an actual spiritual teacher. So I'm gonna go over some of the experiences that I've had, some of which relate to launching the 5-day job search book. So there was a time when I was in high school, I didn't want to go straight to college. I had a whole bunch of reasons, right? I didn't want to get into student loan debt. I didn't want to be someone who went to college, got the student loan debt, then boomeranged back home to my parents' house, had to live under my parents' house again, and then under their rules because they could be a little bit controlling. And I know for a fact if I ever took money from my parents, then they would feel like they had a say in what what they spend their money on and my career and things like that. I just didn't want any of that. That was a major factor. But then just simply in my heart, I knew for a fact it just felt wrong. It just didn't feel right. And I couldn't explain why. I had a guidance counselor who tried to throw all sorts of very logical reasons for why I should go to college because I'm so smart, I'm a straight A student, blah, 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 blah. But it didn't feel right. It just felt so wrong to my core. And there was this one moment when I was actually contemplating about my guidance counselor possibly being right. Maybe I should go to college. She's an adult and adults know how the real world works, right? So maybe I should listen to her. And she took me into a meeting with the head of the guidance counseling department, with my mom, my dad, me, and her. And this was totally a surprise meeting. No notice to me that she invited my parents to school that day. And she basically told my parents that I would be a failure for the rest of my life. How do you feel about your daughter being a failure for the rest of her life if she didn't go straight to college? And, my parents didn't know what to say. They didn't say anything. They were just like, well, after she turns 18, we're not responsible for her. So she has to suffer the consequences of her own decision making. That's pretty much what my dad said. He didn't push me to go to college. He just said, she's an adult. What do you want us to do, right? But after that, I think it was about 2 periods later, it was during lunch, I was thinking in my head, maybe my guidance counselor is right. And then all of a sudden, I hear a really loud voice in my head, and it was a man's voice. It was so thunderous. You cannot ignore this, right? It's the first time in my life I had ever heard voices in my head. And it was just saying, Annie, going straight to college is not the right path for you. Don't go. If you go, this will be the single most regretful decision you will ever make in your entire life. It is not the right path for you. Do not go straight to college. And I was just like, huh? What? And then ever since that day, it just felt really wrong to my core to go against this. It almost felt as if I did the opposite of what I was told, and I go straight to college, something terrible would happen to me. So I ended up not going, and I just simply let my life go the way it has gone, right? I honestly, everything that has happened in my life, I just listened to these voices that tell me what to do next. And things pretty much have always fallen into place because I follow what they tell me. A lot of times what they tell me make no logical sense whatsoever, but I just listen to it. It is more than one voice. It is like, I think 10 voices, right? I didn't really understand this. And I had a lot of trauma. I'm probably going to go out of order because like I'm just remembering things and they come out of order as I'm going to speak. But that was like the first experience that I remembered. After high school, there was this moment when I worked as a foot fetish model. The whole story is in chapter 10 of the 5-Day Job Search. I don't need to go through it on video. If you really want to know the story, you can get the audiobook and listen to chapter 10, or you can buy the book and read it yourself. I don't need to repeat it. But yeah, I worked as a foot fetish model, and then like I didn't understand why that experience had to happen to me. So I kind of just try my best to overcome the trauma. I had a lot of trauma from this experience, and it was so bad that when I was going to community college, whenever a man looked me in the eye, I felt like I was being assaulted. You know, like it was so bad. I couldn't have men look me in the eye. So I walked around campus wearing a hijab. So I put a scarf around my head, pretending to be Muslim. And whenever I wore that hijab, people would look away. Like they wouldn't, especially men at school and on the train, they wouldn't look me in the eye because it's really disrespectful. And so it almost felt like I was more invisible, and I felt a lot more comfortable. Like that's how traumatized that I felt by the experiences that I had. And at some point I went to an energy healer for help. And during one of the sessions with the energy healer, she was like, you know, what's so weird is you have your angels are surrounding the table now. And then she's very intuitive, and she asked, who are you guys? And then they revealed themselves to be sages. So she was like, Annie, you don't have just guardian angels like everyone else. I have never met a case like yours, but you actually have like extremely wise and old sages that are watching over you to protect you. And this is the first time I've encountered sages in my healing sessions. And then I was like, huh? What do you mean by that? She was like, these sages are so old. They were present for the birth of Jesus. And then I was like, what? Why on earth would these sages be so careful to protect me and guide me every step of the way? I don't really understand why, but that was the first instance I learned of their presence, because I wasn't as intuitive back then. I could hear voices, but I didn't know there were like 10 of them. And I didn't know that the voices that I was hearing weren't even mine. Like I thought they belonged to me. Like I thought like maybe, you know, like how people talk to themselves and they probably ramble, or maybe they're thinking through a decision. So they're like thinking the pros and cons of a decision or things like that. You know, people have thoughts in their head, right? Like I thought everyone had thoughts in their head like this. I thought this was a totally normal experience, and especially having voices in different voices. It could be man's voice, could be woman's voice, it could be all sorts of voices. It doesn't have to be the sound of my voice that I'm hearing in my head. I thought this was a very normal experience. And so I always thought that this was just like my decision making, processing what's going on in the world and telling me what I should do next. Like if I do A, then maybe this will happen. If I do B, then maybe that will happen. I genuinely thought it was like that until 2 years ago. I struggle with learning piano. I do struggle with it. And my piano teacher told me, okay, now that you finished learning this piece, I want you to record it. And I want you to record it with feeling and energy. And so the morning when I was going to record that piece, I asked, I was like, if you guys are real, if you guys up there are real and you guys are really here to guide me, then I want to do well on this recording. Guide me and tell me what I need to do to have a good recording of this piece to present to my teacher, and I'm gonna record it tonight. So I asked them in the morning, and then I said, I'm gonna record it tonight. You guys better tell me what I need to do well. And throughout the day, I was hearing messages like, okay, you need to do this to relax, you need to take a bath, you need to do this, do a little bit of yoga first, and then you need to connect from your heart to the piece, and like just a whole bunch of things to do. And then finally, nighttime, time to record, I did it, and I showed the recording to my teacher, and then she goes, that was amazing. How did you manage to step into the zone? Like, how did you step into that zone, that flow where you could play with such enthusiasm and feeling? And then I told her, like just in the morning, I just ask these angels to help me, like tell me what I need to do. And then I got the answer throughout the day, and then I just follow their instructions. And then my piano teacher was like, huh? What? And then I was like, well, doesn't everyone have this? She's like, no. Because like she's the kind of person, like if she finds a technique that works for one student, she's gonna try the technique on another student. So every time I do something, especially I do it well, she asks me what happened, what was going through my mind when I was doing it, so that maybe she can use that as advice or as a suggestion for a different student to help them on their journey to learn piano. And so when she was like, what? Your secret is that you just ask for help and then you can hear the answer? I was like, yeah, doesn't everyone just ask for help and hear the answer? She's like, no. And then I was like, doesn't everyone just hear thoughts in their head? And she's like, no, my mind is very quiet. And then I was like, okay. So I was, it's been like this since I was 26. No, not 26. I've been hearing this since I was 16, 29 now. So it's been like this for 13 years of my life. And I actually didn't even discover until 2 years ago that this was not a normal everyday experience for people, but it's actually been a very normal experience for me, where I literally just ask for help and then I get the answer, and the answer pretty much almost always works. Like, let me give you an example. So sometime last year, I was trying to set up this email forwarding. It's easy to set up email forwarding in Gmail if you're forwarding to a different account where you have the access to the account and can get like the confirmation email to click and confirm that it's really you, or get the two-factor authentication code. But it's hard to set up email forwarding to an external email address where you don't have the login information, right? And I was trying to figure that out to automate a very specific accounting task. It's almost like if you have QuickBooks and QuickBooks gives you this email and says, email it to this QuickBooks email address so that we can attach your receipts to your transactions. Almost something similar to that, but like, how do you get it so that it forwards to QuickBooks, right? Automatically, without you doing anything. I was trying to set up something similar to that. And I couldn't figure out the answer. I ended up hiring this IT professional, $4,000 to set it up for me, because you would think an IT professional who does IT for a living should be able to figure it out. And after paying the guy $4,000, he couldn't figure it out. And I was like, how come a professional cannot figure it out? And one day I went for a walk just around my neighborhood. I was like, oh, I need some fresh air, I just need some fresh air, some time away from the computer. Keep in mind, this problem has been going on for a month, right? And then while I'm going on my walk, guess what I see in my head? I see screenshots in my head on how to set up the email forwarding that I've been struggling to set up for an entire month. I literally see a screenshot of a Google Chrome browser in the on gmail.com, and then I see the screenshot in my head, and I see a mouse. Click there, then click here, then click there, then click here. And that, if you follow this, and it repeated in a cycle, click here, then click here, to make sure I really got the message. And then I was like, is really? Is this really gonna work? I went home, and the first thing I did was to try to follow the screenshot images of click here, click there. And it worked. I literally, it was just this 5-minute thing. I was able to figure it out. And I was like, I cannot believe I paid that IT professional $4,000 and he couldn't figure it out. But I was able to figure it out. And it was literally only a 5-minute thing. It's 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's a whole month, right? Yeah, this happened just last year. I have a whole bunch of stories to share. It's what else happened? I had paid my graphic designer to design my book cover for the 5-day job search, and he wasn't meeting the deadline. After 8 weeks, he still hadn't submitted a cover. And then I had just heard this message from the angels: he's not going to finish the cover. You can just design the cover yourself, Annie. Just finish it yourself. He's not going to finish it. And then when I asked why, I was like, why? He's so talented. Why is he not going to finish the cover? They said he's having marriage problems. That's causing him to have creativity issues. He needs to fix his marital problems first before he can do work-related stuff. So I just called him up, and then I was just like, hey, I don't know what's going on in your marriage. I really care a lot about you because you're my friend. I just don't want to offend you. I don't want this to affect our relationship. I just want to make sure everything is okay in your marriage. And then he broke down crying. He said he broke down crying right away. And he just said, I don't want to talk about this right now. I was like, okay. So that was dead on perfect. Then I had another person working for me, and for I think 2 whole weeks, I got this message from the angels, you need to rework your work arrangement with her, a different kind of schedule, a different kind of way of paying her. You need to renegotiate that. Something needs to change. You cannot keep the current existing arrangement that you have with her. I was like, what? I mean, she seems pretty happy with the current arrangement. At least that's what she's conveying to me. But finally, I just said at the end of a meeting, I was like, is there anything related to our work arrangement that needs to be changed? I just kind of hear things in my head that tell me maybe something about our work arrangement needs to be a bit more flexible. I don't know what it is. Can you just be honest and transparent with me? And then she broke down crying. The moment I said that, she broke down crying, and she said that she had 2 part-time jobs. So one of them was with me, one of them was with the other. And then she was working 9 to 10 hours a day, and it was draining her. And she had never told me that she was working another part-time job. So, so yeah, so it's just that was dead on accurate as well. And then I remember there was a few years back, my friend had invited me to a double date. So my husband, me, she, and this new boyfriend that she got. And the moment we sat down on the table at the restaurant for the double date, I just hear this message in my head saying, they're not going to last. And, they're just not meant to be together. And then I was like, well, she's my friend. What should I do? Should I warn her not to get married to this guy eventually? They were just dating, not even married, right? Or anything like that. What am I supposed to do knowing this stuff that are bad about someone's future? And even then, is it my intuition, or is it just me trying to project things on other people, right? I could never really fully know. And so I was just I'm not gonna tell her anything, because if I go and tell her, hey, I don't think he's good for you, he might not be compatible for you, or you guys might not stay together in the long run, maybe there's a relationship issue you guys might have. If I tell her that, she might get mad at me and say, well, you're just not supportive of my relationship. And then in her being mad at me, she might suddenly say, you're not my friend, you're not supportive, and then just end our friendship, even though I'm just trying to act on my intuition and the things that I hear. And so I just left it alone, and she eventually did get married to this guy, and then 3 years later they got divorced. So this intuition also was spot on, came true. They were not meant to be together. And after she got divorced and processed all her feelings about this experience, I asked her, I have to tell you, I'm really intuitive, and I knew the day we sat down for that double date that this was not going to work out. Should I have told you, or would you have preferred to be naive and not known about it? And then she's just like, I would have preferred to have not known. So you did the right thing. Because if you did tell me, I would have said that you're not a supportive friend at all, and I would have ended our friendship. I was like, okay. So I, if I know very bad things about the potential future, especially a particular individual that I very much care about, I just keep my mouth shut. I don't say anything. It's not for them to know, right? Unless they ask. Only if they ask, then I tell them. But like these messages, they come so randomly. For example, I know this is getting long, it's 21 minutes long, but the reason why this is getting so long is because I have so many stories to share that are just too coincidental and too spot on to ignore. Like, for example, sometime last year, I was driving to piano lesson, and then I had to look for parking. I was driving around for 30 minutes that day looking for parking, and I couldn't find parking. While I was looking for parking, I suddenly felt the urge to use the bathroom. I really had to go, right? And I was just like, oh my God, I can't find parking and I really gotta use the bathroom. I hear 10 voices in my head, and they're all warning me, telling me, Annie, before you sit down on that toilet seat in your piano teacher's studio, you need to check if she has toilet paper in the bathroom. And then I was like, okay, I will check if she has toilet paper in the bathroom. They're just like repeating this, repeat, make sure there's toilet paper. Finally, I find parking. I'm walking to her studio. While I'm walking, remember the toilet paper. I'm like, yeah, I hear ya, And then I walk up the stairs to her studio. I put my stuff down. First thing I do, I bolt for the bathroom. Of course, I totally forgot to check for toilet paper. I do my business, and then I look. There's no toilet paper in her bathroom. How did this turn out to be right? Is it just another coincidence? And then there's also like manifestation. So these are just things about like intuition coming true. There's also like manifestation, where I will think about something, and then all of a sudden I will get contacted about it. I will think about it. I will not tell anybody about what I'm thinking, and then I will get contacted about it. So one example is like, I was getting my eyebrows threaded, right, at this place. Like, I got my eyebrows threaded, and then I looked on Google Map, and then I was like, oh, look, like Bank of America is only a 10-minute walk away from this place. I've never been in this area before, I was like, but 10 minutes, it's a reasonable walk that I don't have to move my car. It's maybe, it's summer, the weather is nice. I think I'm just gonna walk the 10 minutes and walk 10 minutes back. So I've never been in this area before. And so as I'm walking to Bank of America, I walk by M&T Bank. Now at this point in my life, I had never heard of M&T Bank. I have never seen an M&T Bank branch. But as I'm walking and I'm looking at that branch across the street, I'm like, M&T Bank, I wonder who their ideal customers are. Like, I wonder who they really service, what kind of services they have, because I've never seen this bank before. And then as I'm walking back from Bank of America too, I still look at the M&T Bank very intently. I'm like, yeah, I really wonder, like, I've never seen this bank before. I'm just like thinking about the bank very intently. And then 2 hours later, I'm at home eating lunch, and then I get this call from a Massachusetts number. I pick up the phone call, and then the guy on the other line says, hi, my name's Jason. I'm calling from M&T Bank. I got your phone number because I was just looking for small businesses in the area, and I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself and wonder if you have any banking needs, and potentially probably like ask if you would like to open up a checking account with us. And then I was like, no, I think I'm all set, but thank you. So it was just a really, what is that, coincidence that like I was thinking about M&T Bank very, very intently, and then the branch manager from M&T Bank had called me randomly saying, I just got a list of small businesses in the area and you're on the list for me to call today. What? Then there's, just last week, I woke up thinking about this ex-coworker that I had. This ex-coworker I had 5 years ago. I haven't spoken to this coworker in 5 years, but I was replaying this memory in my head that I thought was just hilarious. So we were at a holiday party and I had snatched his phone while he was so drunk, so drunk, snatched his phone, looked through it, and then I saw he had the Bumble app, and then I opened up the Bumble app and I just swiped right for everyone. And then he woke up the next morning to a whole bunch of text messages from various women on the Bumble app. And then he was like, Annie, was this your doing? I was like, yeah. And then so I was just like replaying that very hilarious moment in my head that morning. And then like 3 hours later, even though I hadn't spoken to him for 5 years, he texted me randomly out of the blue. And he just said, hey, Annie, I just realized I haven't spoken to you a long time. How are you doing? Just wanted to catch up. And then I was like, you know what's so funny? I was literally just thinking about you earlier today, very coincidentally. So there's another coincidence. And so there's so many more. This doesn't even scratch the surface. I have a lot more stories. I think I wrote all of the ones that I do remember in chapter 7. If you buy the 5-Day Job Search or get the free audiobook on AnnieYangFinancial.com, you can read more of those kind of like coincidental stories where everything just happened to fall in place, right time, right everything. Like almost like a movie. I have a whole bunch of stories. I'm just sharing the ones that I haven't talked about in the book, because there was just so many. I couldn't make the whole book about them, right? But then this really makes me question, because of the strong intuition that I have of things that eventually do come true, or how I think about something. I have a low battery on my phone. Or how I think about something and then it just somehow makes contact with me in some way. It's just too coincidental. Do we really have free will? Is free will really a thing? Is there a destiny? And how much does free will really play into it? And it's a constant interplay. It's a constant debate. It's been going on for thousands of years, this debate, free will versus destiny. And what I really feel it is we do have a destiny where we end up in a place, but we have the free will to decide how we end up there. So what really goes on is there's a really strong current that happens in our life. And you can either choose to follow that current that will lead you to an easier time getting to where you need to go, or you can try to swim against the current where everything is just a fight. So that's why, like, going back to the going straight to college example story, right? I could either fight that current and I could have gone to college, but I probably would have dropped out and I would have had student loan debt. Or I could just listen to that destiny, that right choice, right path that I hear and just follow it, even though logically it makes zero sense at all. Practically no sense at all, you know? And I have always just ended up following the illogical path because I hear it and then I feel like if I disobey it, I will be put up with resistance and obstacles along the way. And I think I just want to follow the easier path. I hear it, okay, I will do it. Because I have realized that when I fight back and I'm like, no, I want to do things my way, things don't end up going my way. They don't. There's just like this very hard resistance of like all sorts of obstacles put in my way to tell me, no, Annie, that's not the right way. Don't go there. So an example is in writing the 5-Day Job Search, I didn't want to write the book. I know Chelsea, Allison, people reading the book, they love the book so much, but I did not want to write this book. I had no plans to write this book. It was a night in November when I couldn't sleep. I heard voices in my head. What was it? Let me tell you the story. In November of 2022, it was 1 a.m. and I was just trying to go to sleep, and I hear voices in my head just suddenly speaking, Annie, you gotta write your next book. It has to be about how to land a job offer in 5 days. This is what you need to put in the book. And they're just going like 100 thoughts a minute. It was crazy. So many thoughts, so many voices saying, this needs to be in the book, that needs to be in the book, put this blah 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 in the book. And all of a sudden, like my life and the last from 16 to 27 at that time just like flashed before my eyes of how all of the events that happened to me, especially in my career, all fit into this grand puzzle. It's this crazy thing, this grand journey, this grand puzzle where everything was intentionally put in place, that I was supposed to experience to learn a certain lesson, to accumulate and lead me to the final act of writing the 5-Day Job Search book. It was a very weird experience because, like I told you about the foot fetish story, I questioned. I was like, why did I have to go through such a traumatic experience? Why? And then I was told that story needs to be in the book. And then I was like, why would I tell the world that I let men touch my feet for $40 for 10 minutes? Like, why would I go and do that? Are you crazy? And they're like, no, it's not negotiable. This needs to be in the book. In fact, that's the most important story in the book. I was like, what? That's a skeleton that I had intentionally buried in the closet for no one to ever know about, because people don't need to know about it. But they were telling me, commanding me to pull that skeleton out of the closet because it needed to finally be spoken about. Anyway, this went on for an hour, and I just simply, I've never spoken back. I always simply absorbed thoughts like a sponge. This is the first time I ever pushed back, and I said, if you're really not me, if you're really like external guides to me, I'm just letting you know I'm not writing this book. I don't want to write the book. Go find someone else to write a career book, because there are so many existing books on the market already. I don't need to add to another, like a whole sea of career books out there. There are so many career coaches out there already, so many authors who have written career books. Like I don't need to contribute to this already massive sea of books on how to land a job offer. It's just like already been done before. It doesn't need to be written. And then they were just like, no, you must write this book. And I was just like, well, whatever this project it is that you're assigning me, go give it to someone else. I'm not interested. Like, go find someone else who can hear you guys talking to write this book. Don't ask me, because I have so many things that I need to do. Oh my gosh, my camera is on low battery. I gotta, hold on. Oh, nice. It's really low. Sorry about that. My phone is always running low of battery. Okay, yeah, so I argued back was just like, go find someone else. Why me? Why are you picking me? You know, all I want to do is I just want to make money offering accounting services. I just want to grow an accounting firm. I just want to earn a bit more money and then be financially independent and do anything I want with my life. I don't need to write another book. I've already written 1001 Ways to Save Money. Like, you know, this whole project, I'm not interested. You know, like, why are you guys, they are always, I swear to God, these guys are always piling more projects onto me to work on. And I just said, stop bothering me. Like, come back in the morning, right? Like, you guys speak so loudly in my head. I want to go to sleep. I've worked all day. I'm tired. And at this point, it's like 2 a.m. and I'm just like tossing and turning and they won't stop. They just keep on talking. And so finally at 3 a.m., I get up and I was like, okay, I will write down what you're telling me to do, right? Like what needs to be in the book. Okay. So I didn't sleep until like 4 a.m. And then I had an appointment in the morning, so I had to wake up at 7. I got 3 hours of sleep that night. I was exhausted. And then the next night was Friday night. And I knew for a fact that I had to be somewhere at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. So I said, you guys better not be talking to me tonight because, you know, I got only 3 hours of sleep the night before. I am exhausted and I'm going hiking with the hiking group in the morning. So I will be even more exhausted. I need to rest, recuperate, and get my sleep. And they were just like, no, we're gonna talk to you and you're gonna write this book, right? They were just like, a little lack of sleep isn't gonna hurt you. This is more important than you losing a bit of sleep. And so I was, you know, so the same thing, 1 a.m., I'm tossing, turning, they won't stop going. They're running in my head with all these different thoughts. So finally, I get up and I'm writing what they're telling me to put in the book. And then again, I sleep at 4 a.m., but I have to wake up at 7. So another night of 3 hours of sleep. It was crazy. And then like for the next 10 nights, instead of like handwriting it, instead of doing that, I dictated the book into my iPhone. So I would record 1 hour of audio into my iPhone of the things that I heard that needed to be in the book for the next like 10 nights. And then I transcribed that. And then that became the initial manuscript for the book. So I'm telling you guys, I really did not want to write this. I was basically commanded to write this and told that no one else can do this but me. I'm like, they specifically assigned me to do this project. And I asked them, why are you assigning it to me? We have like, what is it, 7 billion or 8 billion people on this planet Earth right now? So you're telling me that there is not a single other human being on this planet that is capable of this project? And they were just simply responding with the answer, there are people on this planet who are capable of writing the book, but they're not going to go all the way of selling the book. So while we could give this project to someone else to write it, they're not going to follow the instructions to market and sell the book to make sure people actually hear the message. So that's why we picked you, because we know that you're actually going to follow the instructions that we give you all the way through. So I was like, okay. Anyways, then sometime later in December, so that was in November of 2022, in December, so I'm already like, I have the rough manuscript and things like that, but it's time for me to edit the manuscript, right? I have to get it in shape, ready to bring to an editor, because it was just like full of typos and everything, and it was totally disorganized because I was just channeling what I was hearing into the iPhone. So at that point, I had to actually organize things in a logical manner, make sure the grammar was okay, so that the editor has an easier time with the first draft. So that was what I spent all of December 2022 doing. And at some point, I had no heat, no hot water in my condo building. So I had to like live somewhere else for 4 days. And in that 4-day period, I was thinking, you know, this is a great 4-day period to work on the book. But when I went away, I was like, you know what? I've been working really hard. I don't want to work on the book. So in the end, I didn't work on the manuscript at all, even though it was a perfect time to. And then when I got back, I hear, girl, you need to work on the book. You need to work on the book. And I was like, yeah, but I have to also do my job. I have a full-time job, quote unquote full-time job, and I have to do that first. Like, that's more important. That writes my paycheck and pays the bills. So 10 a.m. I sit down on my computer in the office to start my workday for my job. And then 10 minutes later, you know what ends up happening? My internet gets cut. And then I say to them, I say, haha, very funny. You disconnected my internet. And while the only thing I can do on my computer without any internet connection is to write the book. But you know what? I'm one step ahead of you. You guys can't do this to me. I'm just going to go to the public library nearby. I'm just gonna work there where there's Wi-Fi. So that's what I did. I went to the public library, and then you know what happens at 12 o'clock? At 12 o'clock, there was a power outage. How likely is that out of all days, when I'm there at the public library, there's a power outage? And then once the power outage came back on, guess what? There was no Wi-Fi. And then I'm like, oh yeah, you guys are so funny. You guys like to mess with technology so much. You have no idea how capable these sages or guardian angels are of manipulating technological frequencies or instruments. I have another example to give you. So when I was getting my headshots done, so I paid a famous celebrity photographer to do my headshots. That was about like a $4,500 cost. Okay. The way he charges is he charges you $1,500 for the session, and then he charges you $300 for each photo that you want to keep. 3 days before our scheduled shoot, he called me and asked me what the photos were for, and I said, I'm publishing another book, so I'm using these as headshots for my marketing to promote my new book. And then he's like, oh, are you going to use any of the photos on the book itself? And I said, yeah, of course. I'm going to take one of those photos and I'm going to put it on the back of the book. Like, that's every book. Every book has that. And he says, well, since you're making money directly from the book, that's not personal use anymore. That's a product where you're actually going to make money from the book itself. So that's actually a commercial license. And I actually charge a commercial license fee of $1,500 for each photo you want to use commercially. So all of a sudden, this thing that I thought it was already expensive, but then he said, it'd be another $1,500 just to use one of those pictures on the back of my book, on top of the fact that I want to pay $300 to have the photo to begin with for personal use. So actually that photo in and of itself would have been $2,100 on top of the $1,500 shooting fee. So we did the shoot. I really enjoyed it. He's great. They came out beautiful. And I liked 8 of the pictures. So 800 times 300, no. 8 times $300 each plus the $1,500 session fee. And then he also wanted to charge the commercial license fee. And then just as we finished shooting and we were paying, it's time to pay, right? His Square payment terminal all of a sudden, out of nowhere, decided to do an update. It was like a forceful update. It wasn't like one of those things where like, hey, there's a new update. Would you like to update now? It was simply like as he was entering the transaction for me to pay, it just all of a sudden went in update mode. And that progress bar on the update went so slow. He was getting so frustrated and upset. It took 30 minutes for it to update. And while it was updating, because he was getting frustrated, he was just talking on the phone with his friend, waiting for the update to finish. And finally, when the update was finished, he was still on the phone with his friend. So he turned to me and he just goes, how much? And then I'm like, well, 1,500 plus 8 times 300 equals this much money, right? I totally like don't even give him the price with the commercial license. And he goes, okay. And he types it in, I pay, and I walk out the door without paying for the commercial license on that photo. So that's like one of the things they're able to control. Like, how is it so coincidental that I got out of, look, I already paid a lot of money. I paid thousands of dollars for those headshots, but it was so coincidental that I got away with not paying for the commercial license because of a software update that just so happened to happen to me, of all people, for 30 minutes, to the point where he just simply forgot about our agreement. I want to thank my angels for that. They managed to save me quite some money, right? But they seem to somehow just make things happen in the background, and they've been telling me all year long. They were just like, just follow our instructions and we will take care of everything. Just do as we tell you to. So I was given a 50-page marketing plan that I had to write all down into a Word doc. It's literally 50 pages, and I'm just told to execute the plan. Just follow the plan and execute, and we will take care of everything else for you. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I will just trust you on that. Yeah. I feel like there's one more story that I wanted to share. Yeah, I remember now. So sometime over the summer, this is gonna be the last story. Oh my gosh, this video is like 47 minutes long, right? So over the summer, I had this dream. So I have really vivid dreams. My dreams are wild. They're like what you would find in a movie. I literally remember every detail in the dream, every little detail. It's a very vivid dream. And in this particular dream I had last summer, I had a dream that I was in some sort of museum. And I remember specifically looking out the window of the museum, I saw a big castle in the background far away. So I was like, I've never been in a place like this before. I've never seen a castle. I wonder where I am. I was basically wondering, where am I? Like, I see this grass and greenery everywhere and then like a castle in the background. But I'm in this museum. And in this dream, I was having lunch with my boss and a coworker. Now, I've never seen this coworker in real life, but in this dream is my coworker that I simply just accept. Oh, she's my coworker. We're having lunch. We wrap up the lunch, and my boss goes to the bathroom, and I'm just talking to my coworker while we're waiting for an exhibit to start at the museum. And all of a sudden, while I'm talking to my coworker, this blonde hair, blue-eyed lady, very tall. So her height is such that